Hello, everyone, and welcome to a bonus Hot Docs episode of Finger Guns Podcast with Tony, Dave, and James. Woo. I am your documentary filmmaker co-host, Jimmy. I've never I've never filmed or starred in a documentary, but I am one tonight. I don't know why. I'm just feeling it. And I'm joined as always with
an actual documentary filmmaker.
I've seen that doc.
Written, directed, and also produced.
I've seen that doc.
Big Tasty Tony B.
Hell yeah. And
Dave, who was also part of said documentary. Baldwin. I was going to just say documentary Dave, but yes, I was
documentary
also part.
Dave is so good.
I was also part of that documentary.
Yes,
Dave was a subject, actually.
Yes, I was.
Well,
I was.
Further study needed.
Yeah.
That was mess of a human being sitting beside me.
Yeah, that was a fun night. It was a fun time. Yeah.
It was a good time. But we're here because we are covering hot docs. It was the third year in a row?
Yes, sir.
Third year in a row. This is very, very exciting. We've had a lot of fun. We've gotten quite a few documentaries that we are covering over this next little bit. So tonight we want to get some of these out of the way and talk about them and share our thoughts and feelings and everything else about them. So let's get right into it, shall we?
You want to talk about some Ludwig van?
Always.
Yeah. James and I saw Clockwork Orange tonight, so we're very in a Ludwig van moment.
Yeah, a surprising amount of Beethoven's Ninth Symphony in that movie, more so than I ever remembered. I didn't even remember that he was obsessed with Beethoven, to be honest.
I remembered that.
It was just, it's been like 15 years since I last saw it.
There were definitely chunks of the movie I forgot, and chunks of the movie that I definitely remembered.
Oh, for sure.
Yes.
That movie's kind of like seared into your brain.
Yeah.
Parts of it.
You can't unsee some of the stuff.
Yeah.
Parts of it are.
It's proper fucked, but the reason I bring up Ludwig van is the first movie we're going to talk about is Larry Weinstein's Beethoven's 9 Ode to Humanity, which was a world premiere. Has one more screening on Saturday, May 4th. It's gone Rush. So if you're interested in that one, you're going to have to stand in the Rush line for it.
Hey, you might get tickets.
You might get tickets. What did we... Well, before we get there, what is this film about, Tony? Can you tell me?
It's about a lot of things.
Yeah.
I'd say.
Yeah.
It's
fair.
It definitely has A, B, C, and D story, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On the surface,
also maybe EFG.
EFG, maybe.
There's a lot.
On the surface, it covers Beethoven and his Ninth Symphony. And the impact that's had on pop culture, I would say. And then it kind of takes a left turn, and then it's about Ukraine and would you say their orchestra or an orchestra? How would you put it?
I think I would say that it's examining Beethoven's Ninth Symphony and the impact that it's had on the world since it was written, 200 plus years ago.
Yes.
Yes, in pop culture, but I think the main thing in sort of the original through line, and I'm going to use those words very carefully, the original through line was talking about the conflict in Ukraine.
Yeah.
It did start with that. Like it was talking about the Ukrainian orchestra.
Ukrainian Freedom
Orchestra.
That was what I was looking for.
Which is made up of the members of the chorus or members of the entire orchestra are displaced Ukrainians.
Yes. So examining the Ukrainian Freedom Orchestra, their interpretation of Beethoven's Ninth, and how over 200 years that symphony has remained relevant, how it's been used in different interpretations over the years and different meanings in different times and places. How slight interpretations have made different meanings to the overall message, depending on who was putting it on. And I think that is its major through line.
Yes, because then he brings up Leonard Bernstein later, who was doing it as the Berlin Wall was falling.
Yes, correct. And the changes that he made to the lyrics in there in order to better emulate what was happening in the world outside. And again, what the Ukrainian Freedom Orchestra was doing, again, in terms of their interpretation, singing the entire thing in Ukraine, or in Ukrainian,
yes.
And changing the words as well to fit more to
what they were going through,
what they're going for, and what they're going through. Yeah.
And then it also brought up Charles Schulz, the creator of Peanuts.
Inexplicably had something to do with Peanuts. It inexplicably had something to do with that Drink Milk Love Life commercial.
Yes. Yes.
It had
Die Hard.
Yep.
It started talking about the Enlightenment.
A lot about the Enlightenment, and also who Beethoven might be today.
Yes.
And then other interpretations on his work, like using other sort of cultural landscapes. I would say, like it was like the Peruvian pan flute.
Yes.
Ode to the Ninth Symphony sort of thing, which was I think it all comes down to like, does something remain relevant, and can it stay relevant? And I think Beethoven's Ninth, that literally we just came back from A Clockwork Orange. It's still relevant.
Still like very relevant.
Still very much a part of our culture.
Yes. And we're dancing around this, but
yeah,
it also kind of Weinstein kind of finds himself kind of in the movie himself, as his sister was she was in Gaza during the attack on October 7th.
Yeah.
And then it kind of follows them trying to find out what happens to the sister as all of these other elements of Beethoven's Ninth are being discussed. And
around all of this.
Around all of this.
Yeah.
And that stuff is pretty gut-wrenching and very emotional to watch. And it's harrowing. And like there's some actual footage of the sister and like what she was seeing, the bombs going off and stuff.
Yeah.
And I know we already said carefully and through line. And I think once it gets to that point in the documentary, I don't think the through line is there.
Correct.
I think that it, like, all of the elements in this documentary are great. And there's a lot of emotion in it. But I think he started off wanting to make one movie, and then he wanted to make a different movie, and then he kind of smashed them together. So it feels very inorganic.
Yeah.
And there's a scene in the film where they're showing like the influences, and as we said, Die Hard, the Drink Milk Love Life commercial, and then there was another one that they showed as well. And I thought that was what the movie was going to be, was kind of showing the different interpretations and kind of like how it's been used in pop culture.
Yeah.
And then kind of like how's the through line of the Ukrainian Freedom Orchestra.
Yeah.
But then when it pivots into the war in Gaza, I feel like it lost what it wanted to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Its point became kind of muddied.
Yeah.
In terms of what it was, I'm not saying that like, anything to do with what happened with his sister and what is on display through that, call it B storyline, is muddied. It's not. It's just the overall path of this documentary kind of loses itself once you get to this point, because it's a fundamentally different thing that's happening.
Yeah.
You can kind of maybe see it from like and I'm not comparing conflict to conflict, but just that, there's something going on in the Ukraine. There's something going on between Israel and Palestine, but they're not the same thing. And it's tragic and terrible what's happening and what happened to his sister in the middle of this. But to your point, it is very much that is existing, and Beethoven's Ninth documentary is existing, and they do not combine well together. It is two different things that are happening.
And some of the others, like, why the fuck do I care about Charles Schulz and Peanuts?
Yeah, it's at one point trying to be too lighthearted while dealing with ridiculously heavy subject matter.
Yeah.
Like that the peanut stuff is like, okay, yeah, there's a cartoon character named Schroeder. End of story. Like end of sentence. That's it. Thesis statement over. Okay.
Yeah. I just like I said, I found the images and the pieces to be great.
Yeah.
It's just I don't think it was organic at all.
Yeah.
And I don't want to put myself in his shoes of trying to figure out how to make a documentary because I've never made one. I've only assisted or been a subject in one.
Right.
But if you start off with one thing and then the story evolves into something else, then get rid of the first part.
Then yeah.
Or
then
change
focus on it.
or push the first part away and just stick with the second part.
Yeah. You don't need to circle back.
Yeah. Like there's I think inorganic is the way I can describe it.
Yeah.
All the parts are there and they're all great. They just don't mesh together.
Yep.
Tony.
Pretty much in agreement. It definitely felt like two movies smashed in one, and I think you're hitting the nail on the head. I think the documentary was going one way and then completely got derailed by what was going on in Gaza.
Yeah.
Well, his personal connection to
exactly. And then it kind of goes in another direction. I was very confused and kind of disappointed because, like Dave said, like I was getting I love that scene, where the teacher's like teaching like the influence of what this symphony had. And I thought it was going in that direction and it didn't. And I was just it was very jarring.
Yep.
And very confusing. And all in all, it was just a very inconsistent and inorganic, as Dave would put it.
Yep. Agreed.
I agree. Yeah, wholeheartedly.
They got some good bits in it. I did enjoy some bits, but that's about it.
Yeah, like it's very emotional and it's gut wrenching. But yeah, I didn't love it the way I wanted to.
No, I didn't end up. It doesn't work as a cohesive whole.
No,
and I think that's where it kind of falters, and it doesn't land, I think, the way that it should, or that it could.
Agreed.
In different circumstances.
Yep. Agreed. So that's Beethoven's 9. I guess we can go kind of slightly more lighthearted.
Sure.
With Grand Theft Hamlet, which was a film I really wanted to see at South by Southwest, and I missed it, but I managed to see it now.
Hell yeah.
It has another screening that's on Rush on Saturday, May 4th. So that one's one you're definitely going to have to line up for.
Yeah.
James, tell me about Grand Theft Hamlet.
Grand Theft Hamlet is a documentary about trying to make an entire Shakespeare production of Hamlet within the world of Grand Theft Auto Online. That's it. That's all there really is to it.
That's it in a nutshell.
And I was not expecting, I think, what we got. The fact that, it's very much a COVID documentary.
Very much.
Takes place during the heat, the heart, the high point of a lockdown, the third lockdown, I think they said, in the UK.
Yeah.
And
it was like 21, 22 type thing.
Yeah, 2021.
Yeah.
And two stage actors, like West End stage actors who were just stuck at home, no work, no anything else. They decided to try and do something wild. They're playing a lot of GTA online to have some sense of community with the outside world. And then they decided to do something ridiculous, like put on an entire stage production of Hamlet within Grand Theft Auto Online, which, if anybody has played Grand Theft Auto Online, is no fucking easy task, because that place is a goddamn cesspool of just it's a to quote another movie, a hive of scum and villainy.
Yes,
it is fucking ridiculous in there. I've only briefly dabbled, and I don't like it every time that I do, because it's just so nonsensically like over the top.
Yeah. And it takes place entirely in Grand Theft. I don't know if we said that, but it's entirely like there's like one small scene at the end of the movie that's not in Grand Theft Auto Online, but the rest of the movie I didn't realize was entirely in the game.
It's entirely in Grand Theft Auto Online,
and it's wild. It's wild to see them play it out. It's wild to see how they plan it or how they make it happen.
Yeah.
There's like different auditions that happen.
Yeah.
And like the different problems that arise from trying to put on a stage play in Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah. And trying to recruit actors to star in it, like casting a fucking stage play of Hamlet within Grand Theft Auto Online.
And hiring bodyguards.
Hiring bodyguards so that you could do a casting inside of Grand Theft Auto Online, because again, it's insane in there.
Yeah.
Like, it's very interesting. And I enjoyed it for the most part. I think it kind of drags itself out getting to the actual stage show.
Yeah.
Or stage show, quote unquote.
Yeah.
And once it gets there and you see how they put it on, like, spoilers, they do manage to put it on.
Yes.
I won't say how or like the circumstances, but that stuff is all amazing.
Yeah.
It's brilliant, like how they pulled this off.
Yeah.
And it's really cool to see it play out. But the journey getting to the end,
once you pass casting and you kind of get into the rehearsal side of things, I think there's moments in there where some of the drama kind of felt a little bit manufactured, but it goes on for too long at that point. It's like, yeah, we get it. You're in rehearsals and you're in Grand Theft Auto, but by that point, you've kind of just seen it all.
yes.
But there's some lighthearted moments that break it up, but there's definitely things that could have been trimmed out and would have made a more enjoyable, I think, experience where it wouldn't have been kind of dragged
out
through the middle.
And there's like some really human moments and kind of like the upsetting moments of like understanding like the impact of COVID on these two individuals.
Yeah.
And kind of how they like really put their time into it and how things are changing in real life as they're playing the game.
Yeah.
And I thought that was interesting too, but they didn't really go down that avenue enough.
Yeah.
It's just kind of feels like it's like interjected. Like, I don't know if I would say like some of it was definitely manufactured, but some of it was just like, okay, why don't we keep going here? Why are we just throwing this in the bucket and next?
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. That's sort of how I felt, but I overall though enjoyed the shit out of this one. And I also appreciated the subtitles because, good lord, that audio quality.
The subtitles were definitely appreciated.
Yeah. Tony.
Pretty much on board with you guys. I really enjoyed it for the most part. I couldn't believe that like 95% of it took place in GTA for sure.
Almost say 99, really. Like,
I would definitely
insane.
say 99.
Yeah. I want to know if all of it was off the cuff or if there was some scripted moments in there. I know you guys bring it up, but I'm trying to, because like this is like, I would say teetering the line between documentary and fiction almost, in a way, just because like there's a lot of moments in there that you could see it as a narrative movie basically.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it teeters that line a little bit, and I'm on board with you guys when you say some of it was definitely manufactured, but I like some of those tender moments,
absolutely.
like the fight near the fight near the end, the part where the wife has to go into the game because that's the only time that she can spend with the husband. I thought that moment was really weird, real and raw and emotional.
Which is odd to say because you're just watching these.
They're just walking, and they're having this tender. You just see these characters just walking and just interacting, right? But it's like
doesn't one of them get shot too?
Yeah, right. But like you're not even paying attention to that because you're more focused on like the conversation that's happening. Yeah. And I just really like that moment, and overall, really really well done.
Yep. Yeah,
inventive, and you're never gonna find a documentary like this.
Absolutely not.
especially that like keeps your attention for most of the movie.
Yeah, I mean, I was hooked for all of it. It dragged, but like it's not like I was like, all right, like let's get this over with. It was like it was still very much like, all right, where is this going to go next? Like
you need to see it to believe it.
And it's also like it's planted the seed of like it's going to be Hamlet inside of Grand Theft Auto Online. You're seeing some of it lead up, and you're starting to see how they're going to do it. But like when you like it's giving you just enough breadcrumbs, to get you through to the end, regardless, so that you can see what the fuck happens.
Yeah.
And it's excellent. It's so great that it happened at all, and the fact that it's
the fact that it exists is just insane. Is something to say.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So next up, we got Le Mans 55, the Unauthorized Investigation.
So we have we went from heavy to light to heavy.
We're back to heavy, boys. This was a world premiere.
Woof.
There's another screening on Sunday.
Excellent.
And you guys already described 2 movies, so I'll do this one. The director of this film, Emmanuel Reye. He has a personal connection to the tragedy at Le Mans 55, where 2 of his uncles were killed in a tragic accident. I didn't know this happened, or I knew something had happened, but basically there's a car accident on the Le Mans track, and the car flips into the crowd.
Yeah. And it's only like 3 hours after the start of the race. I think it was like the race started at 4.
It happened at like 6:30.
6:37. Yeah.
Yeah. So it flips into the crowd and it kills something like 82 people, and it injures another 170-ish, I think it is.
83 people were killed, 120 injured.
120 injured. Okay, I thought it was a little higher than that. Oh.
Or more than 120, but still.
Maybe I should have looked at the screen while I was saying it.
That's good.
So it's him investigating what happened and kind of piecing together from his family, like their experience with this.
Yeah.
And then kind of pivots into other people's experiences.
Yeah.
And then the actual investigation as to how this happened.
Yeah.
And all like the dominoes that kind of go with it.
Yeah.
And like
all the roadblocks he had to fight too. I mean, like,
yeah.
and let's to preface this, and I think you may have mentioned it, but just to put this out there, this was a race that took place in 1955.
Yes.
It's 2024.
Yeah.
It's been a long ass, what historians would call a long ass time.
Is that the definition, the proper definition?
The proper definition is
the proper nomenclature.
It's been a long ass time. And like this man still had so many fucking roadblocks put in his way, and they're like, oh, we can't release the documents. We can't. It doesn't expire for like it expires in like 2031. And it's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah. So he kind of hints at a cover up.
Yeah.
As
clearly
as much
something
as he
else
can.
has happened. Yeah.
As much as he can, he hints that there's a cover up, or at least that there's definitely something else that's happening. So it's a little frustrating in that regard.
Yeah.
But it's not his fault.
Correct.
And I think that I like how he kind of like, it shows him exhausting all the options.
Yeah. Yeah. And
whereas
every email that he got back, and every fucking rejection that he got, and
whereas other films would have just like cut certain parts out type thing, or you wouldn't get the satisfying answer.
Yeah.
Like,
and every phone call he recorded, I liked. Yeah. Sorry.
I really like this one.
Yeah.
And it's fucked because they show the footage of the car crash, and it's horrific.
Oh man,
nuts.
It's horrific, and they show it more than once, and it's from different angles, and it's a lot.
Yeah. And just to think that like
definitely warning you, if you see this movie, like there is a lot of horrific carnage that you see.
Yeah. And just, even to that end, like the filmmaker, like Emmanuel's investigating this, but like he almost didn't exist.
Yeah.
The only reason he's still here is because his dad was hungry. And I think it was him and his
grandfather.
Emmanuel's grandfather, his father's father,
yeah,
went to go get food
and pick somebody up from a train station.
Somebody up, and that's the only reason that he and like his family still exists. Like any sort of lineage still exists.
Yeah. It's
fucked up, man.
It's fucked up. And just like some of like the eyewitness accounts that they're talking to people of, like the one guy who was like a month old and for some reason was there and his mom is like horrifically burned still from it. Just like the descriptions and the way they're talking and just like what you're hearing.
And the footage of them just like dragging those bodies away, and
it's the carnage after, brutal. Right? It's not just the car crash that happened. It's like the aftermath and the cameraman like going through and everything, and just hearing like the newsreel, right? Yeah. Of like the newscaster being like, please don't interrupt this. This is important. And he's like, please don't interrupt this. Please don't interrupt this. Like, I can't imagine hearing that live. Like that would have been absolutely horrifying.
Yeah. So the amount of footage, the amount of like research that went into this is incredible. Yeah. And the footage he has and he shows and the people he's able to speak to, all incredible. I thought it was great.
Yes.
I really enjoyed the hell out of this one. It's frustrating.
Oh, absolutely.
It's really frustrating when you kind of find out some of the facts about what happened afterwards, immediately afterwards, and kind of like what may or may not be a cover up type thing. Yeah. All of that is frustrating as fuck.
Yeah.
And then, but it's still, to our point earlier about Beethoven's 9 feeling inorganic, I felt everything here was organic, and I felt like it stayed on the point and it didn't kind of veer off.
No.
It just kind of, whereas other film, like the 2 films we already spoke about, kind of veer off, or they have other directions. This one stays very linear and narrow and
focused.
It's focused.
Yeah.
And I really appreciated that about this. And just, it's a lot. It's definitely, it's not lighthearted. It's definitely very heavy and very upsetting.
Yeah. But you know what? I think it's something I never really even considered as something that happened, but it's interesting that like, to witness this from we're trying to figure out what happened, and that's part of the investigation thing, but also looking at it as like what is lingering tragedy, like what is sort of generational tragedy, and like how does that impact from one to the next, from one generation down to the next. And like a lot of he was talking about how if someone was there and was witnessed, like his grandfather or his father, that you just don't talk about it.
Yeah. But kind of like the war.
Right. But even in doing so, you've then created a family secret, essentially, like a shameful thing that is, you don't talk about this. You don't ever bring this up, sort of thing. And just how that can impact going down and going forward. And like you lose part of your family's history, because regardless of what you want to think, like this happened to your family. Like it's something that has happened
to many families.
Right. I was using sort of the
editorial
but yes, it happened to many people's families, and this happened across many people's families of like, we just don't talk about this tragedy. It's unspoken tragedy. We can't ever bring this up because it's too painful. But what that does is what does that do to future generations and things? And does that lead to people being forgotten?
Yes.
So I think there was a lot of that kind of tied into here as well, while trying to figure out what happened in this actual tragedy and why there's so much fucking mystery and cover up and documents that won't expire for another fucking 7 years and shit.
If they even
do it then, like who knows? Because it's a private club, they can do whatever the fuck they want.
And the fact that there's video that people haven't seen.
Correct.
That's
horrific.
Scary.
Yeah.
One of my only gripes about the movie was sometimes when he showed certain documents and news clippings, and he's highlighting certain words.
Yeah.
I wish there was a subtitle for it, only because it was in French, right? So like obviously for you could probably read it.
Yeah, it was fine.
And like I could pick out like certain things.
Yeah.
Well, he says some of it.
He says some of them, but other times he's talking when it's up, and he's not saying.
And there was other things too, not even just the news clippings. There was also times where it was just like a title of who someone was, and that wasn't translated.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know who the fuck you are.
Right. So I was a little lost, but it didn't like
Most of them were journalists.
Yes, I'm aware because I can read French, but I'm saying for the
one
others.
guy was a race driver, a race car driver,
correct.
or a F1 driver.
Correct.
But for the most part, it didn't bother me.
No.
But at some point, like I would have liked to know just to get that little bit of information, right?
Yeah, and who knows? There could be. I've seen other sort of films or documentaries or things like that where they'll release a different cut of the film where those specific add-ons are just translated.
Yeah,
and then the rest is in the original.
So that might just be an issue with the version that we saw.
Yeah, we just saw a version, but
it might get updated later.
Yeah, but I agree. It does make it tougher, and if they don't do something about that, that could lead to some. You don't lose. I don't think you lose a little confusion, but it could lead to a little bit of confusion. I don't think you lose a lot in that, but
yeah,
it's a good point.
Yeah. But I really like this one. Out of the three we've already discussed, this was my favorite.
Oh yeah,
very strong.
Yeah. This is a big one.
Very strong.
I really, really liked it.
Yeah. So don't miss this one.
Yeah, if you can. I mean, as Dave mentioned, there's still tickets available on the Sunday.
Yeah.
As of right now, when we're recording this, looking at this, I can't promise anything in the future, but right now, you could go see this on Sunday, May 5th. I'm just saying, it's a good 90 minutes of your time. What's next?
I guess we can go slightly more lighthearted again.
Sure.
Let's go to Seeking Mavis Beacon.
Hell yeah. You know what? I think it is. Like, it's kind of been an up and down.
Yeah.
This one's slightly more up.
Yeah.
Seeking Mavis Beacon.
Tell us about Seeking Mavis Beacon.
So, two women who have a very, very strong connection to the old, from the 90s, late 80s, I guess, typing program, Mavis Beacon teaches typing, which for all of you late 80s, early 90s kids who may have had a computer very young and tried to learn typing and definitely also had Mavis Beacon teaches typing, I am one of them. I definitely learned typing from Mavis Beacon. I was very excited for this one. But two women seek out the original model who appears on the box for Mavis Beacon teaches typing.
Yes, the titular Mavis Beacon.
The titular Mavis Beacon.
Which is not her name. Her name is Renee L'Esperance.
L'Esperance, yes. And it just sort of follows their journey through trying to track Renee down. Just to have a conversation because this program meant so much to them.
Yes.
And I liked this documentary. I thought it was kind of fun in a way of the way that it kind of went about things. For myself, it was always just like I was kind of attracted to the title of it because, like, again, I remember Mavis Beacon very well. I remember the box cover art. I remember the titular Mavis Beacon. And I was like, this could be interesting. Like, I don't really know much about this. I don't know anything about how the program was built, founded, who the Mavis Beacon is. Is Mavis Beacon even a real person? I totally thought Mavis Beacon was a real person.
I think most people think Mavis Beacon's a real person.
Until, and I think that's how the documentary started off too, is like some of those reels of like, I was today years old when I found out that Mavis Beacon isn't real. So yes, I too was today years old, but I have to say, like, I really admire the sort of can-do attitude on display during this documentary of just like really pushing through to find Renee. And the sort of the cultural significance that I guess Mavis Beacon had on Black women, I guess, in this specific case.
Yes.
And I think
Black people in general, they also talk to some Black men who also speak about it.
Correct. Yeah. I was going more from just the two of them are the ones that are
You're right.
Right in it, and the ones that are really pushing for it, and they want to find her so bad. To the point of wandering around the streets of her old neighborhood being like, do you know Renee? She used to live here. Like, that was flyers
wild.
And shit.
That was wild.
There's one of the words that we have the summary up here as well. And like one of the words that I'm seeing here is determined. And that is an understatement for this documentary. There's determination and then there is this.
Yeah.
And it is just a wild ride sort of from start to finish. I think that's the best way that I can describe it.
I would
How
agree.
did you both feel?
Very DIY.
Oh yeah.
I liked it. I liked it for the most part. I like that it followed their journey and it didn't really pull its punches. It showed the ugliness of documentary, basically.
Yeah.
Like that scene where they go back to the room they've been using and they were using it with like some gamers or something, and all their stuff gets taken down and they like mess up the room and like basically mess up their, because they had everything laid out on the walls and stuff, and then they had to like put it all back together. And just seeing that whole process, and like you're seeing them go through this while still trying to make a documentary. And like they get COVID at one point too.
Yes, the one girl gets
Olivia,
COVID.
Olivia
and she's been watching the
watermelon woman.
The watermelon woman on repeat, basically. Like those are the kind of moments that I like in documentary. Those are the real moments that, like, you know, documentary is a process.
Absolutely.
Like it may take like 6 months to 8 months to make a narrative movie, right? But for documentary, like it takes fucking years, man. And just the amount of dedication that these two women had, it was inspiring to watch.
Yeah, I think it threads a line interestingly between like it's a documentary about trying to find Renee and also a documentary of the documentary of trying to find Renee. Like it's almost meta in a way of what you're seeing. It's raw, it's unfiltered, it's DIY to your point. Like it feels like these two girls had a camera and they just went for it. And I have to admire it because it's kind of amazing to witness in that way.
They just documented their process and documented their journey and how this all came
piecing
to be.
it all together.
Piecing it all together.
Yeah. It was very linear in that way too, of like every time that they found out something new, we found out something new. And like they followed the lead, we followed it with them. Like it was very investigative.
I like the different kinds of footage and how it was on the computer at some points and you were getting the memification of a generation type thing, and seeing the different clips or pulling from TikTok, pulling from, they were filming on like a crappy VHS recorder.
At one point.
And I was like, is this how it's going to look the entire time? And then they're like filming on their camera, their phones and proper cameras, and just like
FaceTime recordings,
and just like the people they managed to speak to that were involved with Mavis Beacon, the creation of Mavis Beacon, and kind of what came after that. And just even just like the man on the street interviews that they do. Like it's all very well done. And it speaks to the COVID generation and kind of the impact COVID had. It speaks to Black culture. It speaks to Black trans culture as well. There seems to be a focus on Black trans culture, and just like how important Mavis Beacon was to these people. And it's a good chunk of that movie is pretty riveting. Like, because you're like on the journey. You want to know if they find her, if they meet her, type thing. And like you're hanging, like by the end of the movie, you're like hanging on everything that's happening.
Every phone call, every FaceTime, this is huge. This is
like this, Jasmine Jones just knocked this out of the park. This one premiered at Sundance, and it has distribution from Neon, and I think this is going to be a bigger one going into the rest of the year for sure. And it has one more screening on May 3rd. So I wouldn't miss out on this one. I think this is going to be one of the ones that gets talked about for a while.
Absolutely. It was great. It was certainly didn't take all the twists and turns that I thought it was going to, and it it ends the way that it ends, but it's worthy.
It's a journey worth taking.
Of a journey. It's worth your time.
This wasn't really on my radar for the festival, but I'm glad I watched it.
Yeah, me too.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Dave. What do we got next?
My Sextortion Diary.
Woo, a brisk one.
Yes, this one was brisk. That's a good word for it. It is
exactly 60 minutes.
64.
64 minutes, sure.
64 minutes. And I think this is I guess this works well going from Mavis Beacon to this one, because this one's entirely told on a computer.
From the computer, yeah.
From the computer.
For a computer or phone, yeah.
Yeah, computer and phone.
Yeah.
So
reminded me a lot of like searching and missing, like that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's what it definitely reminded me
It
of
has,
as well.
to even more of your point from the last one where you said it was very DIY, this felt very like raw, completely unfiltered, and very much like you're just watching this woman's life kind of unfold over this.
I like that.
Stretch
I
of
like that you
time.
bring up unfiltered because it was very like, you know, like it told the story, and no matter how ugly it was, and it's literally unfolding in front of you, and you're on the edge of your seat because you're absolutely horrified. And it was I was on the edge of my seat.
To that point, since we didn't say what it's about,
Yes,
it is about a documentary filmmaker named Patricia Francesa.
Yes.
Who gets her laptop stolen in Madrid, and then somebody, a hacker, contacts her and tells her that she needs to pay $2,400 to a Bitcoin account, or he's going to release her nude photographs that he took off her computer.
Yes,
and kind of her journey of figuring out how it happened and what she can do to kind of combat this hacker who's harassing her.
Yeah.
As she, and to your point, as she's trying to live her life, she's trying to sell other documentaries.
She has other documentaries that she's worked on.
She's trying to establish herself in the film industry for sure.
Correct.
And we have this little pissant trying to ruin her life.
And I think what's interesting with that too is like this documentary definitely did start out, I think, the way that it was. I think it was more kind of like, hey, this is kind of like me trying to get my documentary sold. And like, this is like, you know, that was all it was. And then this happened. And she was like, well, I guess we're in this now. And just like, you just kept going with it.
She pivoted.
Yeah. And stuck with it. It just was what it was. And it worked. It worked in that sense. I think Sextortion though is like one of this is what I started with. This is the first documentary I watched out of our list. And
because it was 64 minutes.
No, actually, because of what it was about. The 64 minutes helped. But mainly because of what it was about, because it's something that like I've known about. It's something that I've heard about. And like you've heard some stories, but you know, much to the documentary's point as well, when she gets into it, she like talks some stats about how often this happens and how little it's actually reported or talked about, because really out of sheer embarrassment, most people will just end up paying the money so that it doesn't happen. And so like, it was really interesting to see her go sort of through the process, trying to go, you know, the proper justice system way,
the proper channels,
trying to sort this out, trying to figure out who did this, trying to catch the person before irreparable harm comes to her reputation, I guess.
Because he's email. Well, I'm assuming it's a guy. They're emailing her contacts. And like sending the photos.
Yeah.
To which I'm glad she had great people in her life who would just forward it to her and just be like, hey, this is happening. Thing, as opposed
the first person, right?
virally
like,
spreading
man,
it.
It could have, the first person that person picked to send these to, thank Christ that they picked that person and they were like, hey, what? Back to her instead of just doing something malicious with it. And that just helped her, I think, find a way to get in front of it as much as she could. You know, send an email out to all of her contacts right now and be like, hey, this might happen. FYI.
Yeah. And
like just try to constantly be in front of it.
Give me a heads up if this happens to you.
Yeah. Until it comes to its ultimate, I can't do anything else. Like this is going to be, sort of, it deals, I think, a lot with like her own powerlessness through this and the fact that she was like blocked by, the justice system. She was, being made fun of by the police. She was basically not being taken seriously, not being helped. And her own sort of like spiral down of like, I have no idea who's doing this. It's constantly happening. It's impacting her life. She can't work properly. And finding a way for her to take that power back from this person who was just utterly ruining her life.
Yeah.
I think that's it.
That basically sums it up.
This was a clean, like, we keep harping on the 64 minutes, but it was just very like there's no bloat
That's it.
to
No.
this at all.
You're in it, and then and then you're out, and it comes, delivers everything, and then it leaves. It doesn't overstay its welcome. It's very clean, very crisp, very like just right in your face.
It's raw.
It's raw.
And it's heavy and
Deeply personal too.
deeply personal.
Yeah.
Deeply personal for sure.
And again, another Gen Z style title with the different types of images. And to your point earlier, how it kind of feels like searching, like narrative features like searching or unfriended.
Yeah.
Or what's that other goofy one we saw?
We're all going to World's Fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one.
That one too.
But yeah, this one, I like this one a lot as well.
Same. Yeah. I think it's great. And I you know what? For 64 minutes, fuck, what have you got to lose?
Yeah.
You're gonna learn.
This one's
you're gonna learn some things. And
It's thrilling for sure. What else did it remind? Like Gorilla Dragon Tattoo. It reminded me of of Red Rooms. Like just how horrific. Like when she starts playing the email, like basically like the AI of reading the emails, the voice. Holy God! It made my skin crawl.
Yeah, it's fucked up.
Yeah,
right. It's so fucked up. This is my favorite out of the ones that we've talked about. This is my favorite so far, and just holy shit, I was blown away by this one.
Yeah.
Again, another one that was not on my radar, but I am so happy that I watched it.
It was a good one. It's a damn good one.
You're welcome again,
Thanks, Dave.
Apparently, I'm just fucking hitting them out of the park, boys.
Swinging
for the fences. Swinging for the fences.
What do we got?
So this one's definitely. Well, this one's heavy, but it's also lighthearted, and I think it's a personal one for the three of us. It's American Cats, The Good, The Bad, and The Cuddly, which world premiered a few days ago.
Yeah,
and it's
I'm still not over this movie, Dave.
I know. It's Amy Hoggart from Full Frontal with Samantha Bee.
Correct.
Kind of getting to the bottom of the decline industry in the United States.
Again, I think something that started out slightly differently in the beginning, and then it found its thing and went hard for it.
Yes.
Drilled hard at it.
Yes. So are your cats declawed?
No.
Is yours?
No.
Okay. So
I would never.
My girl Chloe, she was declawed before Alyssa adopted her.
Yes, correct.
So it wasn't our choice.
A declawed girl.
Yeah, it wasn't our choice to declaw her, and she was declawed later in life.
Oh God!
Like when she was like 3 or something. Like it wasn't.
Poor Chloe.
Yeah. So she's been through a lot. So a lot of this movie spoke to me and kind of like the behaviors, and I was thinking of her the whole time.
I was also thinking of Chloe the whole time.
Yeah, and just kind of the horrific circumstances of declawing and what it actually entails.
Yeah.
Because I knew it was a barbaric process, but I didn't realize how barbaric it was.
Oh, dude, it's fucked up.
And how lucrative it is for, I guess, big cat vet.
Just big vet in general. It's big vet. That is it. It was the big lobby was just the American Veterinarian Association, basically the AENVA or something.
Yeah.
Also, fun fact: in the movie, they briefly mentioned Canada. They're like, "Well, Canada realized it was barbaric and just outright banned it." Not in Ontario. Still legal here. For some fucked up reason. I don't understand it. It makes no fucking sense to me.
Yeah. It makes you upset. It's definitely an upsetting.
It's so
upsetting film. Like when it says the good, the bad, and the cuddly type thing. Like,
oh, there's cuddly.
There's a lot of cuddly. Like if you love cats, like there's a lot of cats in this movie.
So many
I learned a lot too. Even a few more things that I knew a lot of things, and I know a lot of things as a cat owner. I think all three of us do. We've learned quite a bit just from the cats in general. They tell you a lot.
Well, yeah, we are. The three of us are all crazy cat ladies now.
Yes, we are. But I think I gotta say that we've talked about a bunch of documentaries that we've all watched tonight, some of which are a favorite, some of which have hit hard and been heavy. I gotta tell you, man, I actually was a little bit teary at the end of this. The fact that, and I mean, I guess mild spoilers, but the fact that Burrito gets adopted,
I do love Burrito.
was the most touching thing in the world. I felt so bad for that cat, so bad.
Yeah.
And the fact that he like found a forever home at the end is, and I don't care that I'm spoiling that.
It's lovely.
You know what? It's gonna be lovely regardless.
It's lovely.
It's like watching those cat videos online where you see like the cat and he's like this like feral cat that can't like interact with humans, and then they wear it down, and then
they bring him back around,
right?
Yeah.
Like you see those videos every day, and I feel like this is going to be the same thing. Like ruining that, it's not going to do anything. You're still going to be emotionally invested because Burrito is such an adorable cat.
I love him. I would literally take a bullet for Burrito.
Literally take a bullet for Burrito.
I would jump in front of a moving train for Burrito.
And just like some of the interviews she does and the harrowing descriptions of the vets who kind of like turned against it or were involved in it and kind of changed.
Yeah.
And like there's the one who's like very, very emotional, talking about like a horrific
And to me, it sounded
surgery.
Like, to me, it sounded like she had to perform it kind of in order to just like succeed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she was like, I'm never fucking doing this again.
Yeah.
Like, fuck this.
That part got me a little bit because you could see, like, she even said it. She was horrified. Like 10 years later, and I'm still
she can't. Yeah.
She can't. She's still shook.
Yeah. So it's. I think I was telling you this earlier. Her dry British wit, kind of takes away from some of the harder messages in this movie, like. Where it's emotional and it's gut wrenching, but then she'll say something sarcastic and hilarious, and it kind of takes away from
tries to bring it back, and
because it's a witty documentary, but it's also a hard hitting barbaric subject.
Yeah.
So I think she takes away from some of that.
Yeah, and I think some of the impact doesn't work only because like the people that she's talking to don't even understand that she's like trying to make a joke, and it's just like. Kind of awkward for a moment, and it's like because that's not that funny. But I see what you're trying to do. It's just not. You're trying to add some levity to this incredibly heavy subject where we're looking at sad cats and fucking a jar of amputated knuckles.
Yeah, that was fucked. Jesus.
Wasn't there like cat
penises at one point?
Penis bones. Yeah,
I was gonna say that. I didn't want to be wrong.
Yeah. It wasn't just cat too. It was various animal penis bones.
Yeah, like that was just fucking weird. I'm glad she didn't linger on that.
Yeah.
But she was just like, and then this happened and back.
I wanted to punch that other guy though.
Oh man!
Right, and where he was just like, "Oh, we're gonna do the interview on the bed. This is Vegas." I was like, "Who the fuck is this motherfucker?"
Piece of okay, in terms of sort of gotcha interviews, I don't think they could have. There hasn't been such a gotcha interview since Rudy fucking Giuliani. Literally, this was so fucking. This is enough.
When he's like, the crazy women, and then it's like, no, you just called them crazy cat ladies.
No,
man.
I didn't. Yeah, you did. You fucking shit weasel.
You did.
Like, he's such a little bastard.
Yeah. Fuck that guy.
Yeah, he's the villain of the piece.
Yeah,
absolutely. And he fucking does it too. Like he just is.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing.
And she handles it so well, like so perfectly with like the little cheap comments, right? And like,
well, that's what I'm saying. Like some of that works.
Yeah.
Some of that interview works. It works there.
It works there
for sure. But then there's other points.
There's other heavier moments where
it kind of undermines the message.
But I think that goes to okay. So hear me out on this one. I think that works because she's against. It's like they're diametrically opposed. That interview style works.
Yeah.
It's the same when you think of like when Jon Stewart interviews someone, and he kind of takes that same approach, but it works when they're diametrically opposed. When they're on the same page or on the same side, it doesn't.
Yeah.
Like it just can't. So like Amy is talking to the main doctor. I'm blanking on her name right now. Oh my god.
I'll look it up while you talk.
Thank you.
You're talking about the doctor who's literally like going out of
dedicated her entire life to this.
To banning it. Yeah.
And so she's talking to her, and like, I don't think like that's where some of the awkwardness comes from. So that's where some of like the jokes don't land. And it's like, yeah, because you guys are on the same side. You're talking the same thing. But when it pivots to cut to the auntie of this whole thing, this shit weasel of a vet.
I love that phrase, shit weasel. It's
great.
My favorite.
The shit weasel of a vet, it works perfectly because now she's trying to goad him into saying the quiet part out loud, so to speak.
Yeah. And there were other parts too that were really getting under my skin, like when they were going through like the reasoning for declawing, and like there was that one person that was just like, oh, like my cats are scratching up my couch to shit, and so we gotta get rid of it. And then they come back and say, oh well, now that they've been declawed, they're going after my antiques. I'm like, no shit, Sherlock.
All the bullshit, yeah.
The cat's trying to tell you something. Fucking listen.
Like I'm tired of my cats sliding across my antique grand piano.
Who cares?
I don't understand. I feel like some people don't realize how out of touch they come across.
Yeah.
But like, if you were thinking that you need to declaw a cat because of your fucking couch, what? Like, okay. So also to that point, there's a part in this documentary where she calls a bunch of vets.
Oh, when she prank calls the vets,
yeah, just to do like a little bit of guerrilla research and just try to figure out.
Yeah, it's not even prank calling.
It's not prank calling.
She's asking genuine questions.
But she's creating a ruse
in the scene. They say, I prank call vets.
Yeah, which I guess kind of you are creating like a fake story and thing in order to figure out some information. But she does that. And like the fucking reasoning that she's giving these vets, and it's just like, I like this cat. We just moved here, and like this cat's been clawing up my $1,000 couch. And they're like, oh yeah, absolutely, we can definitely declaw your cat. It's like, what the fuck are you on about? Like, why are we doing this? And anyway, I wanted to scream at the TV for most of this documentary.
Yeah,
I was getting really mad too.
Yeah,
really mad.
It riled me up as well.
Yeah. But anyway, when Shitweasel started talking, and then towards the end, his kind of position has shifted. And he started out almost in this like libertarian mindset of like, we don't need, down with government in general. We don't need the government telling me what to do. I'm assuming because he wants 7 wives. I'm not sure. Or he wants to fuck a cow. I'm not sure. But, to hear that, and then, towards the end, he's like, it doesn't, like, we're doing this for profit. Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, I'm more on the side now, and it's like taken 20 plus fucking years. But I'm more on the side now of I think we should be doing everything possibly else before we get to declawing a cat. So that was kind of at least kind of nice to see at the end, and then follow that up with Burrito getting adopted. It was a nice way to tie a bow around this.
I love Burrito.
Me too.
I love him.
And that giant ass tumor that they removed from his foot.
Yeah.
Fuck
Poor
me.
Burrito.
Yeah, seriously.
Man, that cat's been through enough.
Poor Burrito. But so this one's kind of, it's cute and cuddly, but it's also very upsetting.
Yeah. I think it does a decent enough job trying to like balance some lightheartedness into a very heavy subject, and it gets, I think, across its point very well. I think
there's just some ups and downs for
it doesn't land all the time. It doesn't work all the time. But then there's enough cats to look at that it's fine.
Yeah. So if you love cats, and everyone should love cats, then you will enjoy watching this. Yeah. And you'll learn something. You'll definitely learn something. Yeah.
I know I did for sure.
Yeah, me too. Me too. And now I have extra appreciation for my baby girl.
Your sweet angel.
My sweet angel. Who everyone says is mean, but she's
now I get it.
She's been through some shit.
Now I get it. She just gave me six baps when I got in today. Just letting her sniff, and that was not okay. But now I understand. I'm like, Chloe, I get it. Your paws hurt. It's fine.
I don't know if I told you this or not, but Quentin's still scared of her.
Oh,
Like he'll just like kind of touch her type thing,
Yeah.
but he's still kind of scared of her.
yeah.
But like Eloise doesn't give a fuck.
Nice.
Like she just pets her or pulls on her tail type thing, and Chloe swats at her, and she just kind of looks at her and it goes right back to it.
Yeah.
And Chloe
Yeah.
definitely always has this look of fuck.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the closest I got, was Oscars night here when Chloe was very, very near me. And I think that's the most intimate moment I've ever shared with that cat before I get hit.
I
thought she like, didn't you go to my place in the apartment and she kind of like spent some time with you?
Yeah, I think so.
I know you did it more often, but I feel like you got some time in with her.
It's gotta be the right mood.
It's true. It's true.
The tide has to be correct. The moon cycle. Mercury cannot be in retrograde.
I got a couple pets in on Saturday. I was shocked.
That's only
like,
you.
I literally was just like walking up and I saw her and I was like, "Ooh, a cat!" And I like I scratched her ass by accident.
Nice.
And she was like, "Yeah," and I was like, "Oh," and then I just like started petting her head and she just didn't know what to do.
Well, you just went for it, and I appreciate that.
That's literally
that's my girl Chloe.
Yeah,
that's it. She just didn't
well,
know
because
what to
like
do.
I'm so used.
Bewilderment is Chloe's MO.
I'm so used to Luna, right? So
of
like
course.
Luna's the most loving and most adorable cat ever. And I tried it with Chloe, and it worked.
Well, go with it, I guess.
Yeah,
go with God, sir.
She's a good girl.
Yeah,
she's misunderstood, but she's a good girl.
She is misunderstood. I still love her. I love her from a distance.
Most people do. She picks her humans.
Yeah, that's fair. She's a wizard wand.
Yeah. I love her. Anyways, let's kind of close this one off. James, you didn't see this one, but Tony and I did. It's called Drawing a Line.
Talk to me.
It's another shorter film.
Shorter.
It's
73 minutes.
73 minutes.
Beauty.
Yes. So this one is about Rachida Tanasia. I think I butchered her name, but she's a young woman who draws a comic in India.
Political
comic called Sanitary Panels. And it's a stick figure comic. It's all stick figures. And it's commenting on politics. And she got into hot water because she criticized the government. And now she has a trial to kind of decide what to do with her.
Right.
And at the same time, she's still making comics and still being an activist and still kind of fighting against the incoming religion that's kind of like forcing out another one. I don't know enough about Indian politics.
Yeah, okay, sure.
And it's what would you say about this one, Tony? This one's another upsetting one. This one wasn't cute and cuddly. This was harrowing and
very harrowing. I really liked her cartoons.
Yes.
And I liked how they kept going back to the cartoons, and the cartoons almost like set up the segment basically.
Yes.
And I thought that was really well done. And I also liked the ending, because you're here. This isn't really spoiling anything. Yeah. But you're on this journey with her from like the beginning, and you're like, I like that she's like talking to her lawyer and she's advising her, because she's making this documentary as well as this happening, right? Yeah. And she's talking to her lawyer and it's like, okay, what can I include in the documentary, right? And then like when she's about to go into the courtroom and stuff, and she's asking her lawyer's permission, and she's like, what can I include in the documentary? And she's getting advice from the lawyer, and the lawyer's like, don't put this, and she's like, okay. So it's like kind of like filling in those gaps to be like, why you wouldn't be seeing it, right? And she still, Dave, correct me if I'm wrong, but she still has not gone on trial yet. Like, I'm pretty sure
at the end of the film they don't clarify what happens.
They don't clarify what happens. She's still awaiting, because like the back half of the movie, she's waiting for the call to be like, you need to come, right? Yeah. And it's like there's just the prolonging and like the delaying, and like that's when it goes into the end, and there's not really an end, because it's still going. It's still going. It's still actively going.
Yeah.
So her charge was diminishing the authority of the Supreme Court with 3 specific comics that they don't show.
Right.
And the ones they do,
because the lawyer
they
said
advise her
you
not
can't,
to.
you can't.
don't show them.
Yeah.
But the ones they do show, you're like, okay, how much worse can they be? Because
Yeah.
like this is
Because they're not even that bad. It's just a very, very
But they're
brutal
very-
satire.
Yeah.
they're very, very political.
They're critical. Yeah.
They're very
Yeah.
critical. So you're like, how much worse did you go that you got
Yeah.
in trouble for these ones?
It
but
may
she's
not
And like,
be.
was it and like the punishment is like what, like 2,000 rupees
Yeah.
Sure.
fine
Yeah.
or 6 months in jail,
Yeah.
right?
And just like how the government has been silencing comedians and other political activists
Well,
Yeah.
and kind of going through
it's
that.
a real problem.
And also the fact that the movie's not allowed to be shown in India.
Yeah, that makes
There's
sense.
like a warning at the beginning of the film that it's not allowed to be shown there,
Yeah, that makes
which
sense.
is fucking crazy.
But that's how much the Indian government has control over and like it's so, one of the things I think we should get to at some point is we should do a deep dive into some Indian cinema and talk about sort of like the entire landscape over there, because it is fucking wild.
Yes.
But part of it is like it is very still like it's such a huge industry that it has no choice but to be involved in the politics of it, and something like this can easily happen there where it's like, yeah, fuck you, this is not getting screening rights here.
Yeah. So it's another one that you kind of has you on your edge of your seat, kind of
Yeah.
like finding it, like seeing what she's going through and kind of
Yeah.
like what she's experiencing, what she's done,
Yeah.
who she's talking to.
And
Yeah.
she's a great subject too.
Oh, she's a
like
great subject.
You're on your edge. Like she's very captivating. She's very inspiring.
Nice.
Again, this one is another deeply personal documentary for sure.
Yeah.
And you're with her on this journey for sure, and you really want to know what happens.
I'm sold. Like
Yeah.
you guys have done a good enough job. I'm adding this to the list of things that I got to watch.
Yeah. And I loved, to your point about the cartoons, I loved how they showed her doing the cartoons.
Yeah, and I like that. And there was the other moment that I really loved where she was like, "Oh no, like 3%," and she was saying, "I'm always known for this, like not charging my iPad," and she's like trying to finish her comic as before her.
Oh my god! Before it dies, yeah.
Before it dies and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, again, like
Yeah.
those are the real moments
Yeah.
that really make a documentary
That's
work.
excellent.
Yes.
Super excellent. I love this.
Yeah. But it was great. And again, another film that was short.
Yeah.
Short and sweet and didn't have any bloat.
Yeah. Very focused.
Very focused.
Yeah.
Very hyper focused.
Yeah.
And yeah. So out of all the, like, I think all the ones we saw were worth watching.
Yep.
Yeah.
Beethoven's 9 with a caveat,
Yes, to understand sort of what you're getting into.
what you're getting into. But I think these were all solid documentaries.
Yep.
Like there's a number of them that are still available to watch, or you can still see later this week.
Yep.
And a few that you can't, but you should definitely keep on your radar.
Yes, added to a watch list on Letterboxd, and let it know. Like they'll tell you when it comes available.
Yes. But yeah, I think that about wraps us up for this bonus episode. We'll have
Absolutely.
more hot docs next week.
Yes.
But big thanks, big ups to Hot Docs again.
Always.
I know this is a critical year for the festival, and if this is the last one, they're going out with a bang for sure. But I sincerely hope it's not the last one.
I really hope it's not. I mean, 3 years in a row that we've been graciously welcomed back as press covering the event, and it's been nothing short of. I mean, for me, I'm going to talk only for myself, as someone who has never really gotten the opportunity to cover festivals before we started this podcast. This one is kind of a special one for me. I've always enjoyed the documentaries that they've given us. I've always been grateful that they have, and like the opportunities that we've gotten from them, and feedback that we've gotten from some of the filmmakers themselves after watching some of these documentaries, and just it's been like a very engaging community, and a very fun festival to cover that always to me flies under the radar in Toronto, but is definitely one of the best film festivals, I think, in North America.
It's one of the biggest, and it's one of the biggest documentary festivals in the world.
Yeah,
If
and
not
that alone,
the biggest.
like,
I'm not sure if it's the biggest. but it's
for
one
that
of
to
them.
go away, that's a huge blow to the documentary film world. Because how else do you get to see or talk about or experience any of these things? Like, we talked about Seven tonight. I don't think I would have had really realistically any of these on my radar had it not been for this festival. I don't think there's any way that I would recommend any of these to people because like documentaries always fly under the radar.
It's true.
But this gives us a chance to like sort of reset, move away from the features that we constantly watch, move into documentaries for a bit, learn some shit, talk about some shit, see some weird and interesting shit like an entire production of Hamlet within Grand Theft Auto Online.
Yeah.
And I really hope that that this festival doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah. I agree with everything you said. They're just documentaries are always just so unique.
Yeah.
And you're always learning about new things.
Yeah.
And things you never would have expected.
Yeah.
And like I go back to Tony watching Smoke Sauna Sisterhood last year.
Fuck yeah.
And how it knocked his fucking socks off.
Yeah.
And it's a subject that he would have never, ever, ever investigated himself.
Not a chance. That movie ended up being in my top 10 of the year.
Yes.
And that was thanks to Hot Dogs.
Yeah.
It was a great fucking film.
It was an incredible find. And like, I think there's always something to be said sort of about the niche film festivals. Like, there's the TIFFs, there's the, the South Bys, there's the Sundance, Cannes, etc. Venice. That have big movies in Berlin. Sure. You're going to see all these movies. They're going to come out eventually, generally speaking. I mean, there's been a few, Easter eggs that, only the three of us have seen a film that will never see the light of day.
Officially.
And things like that. But for the most part,
Louis, you shithead.
You fucking scumbag. But for the most part, like, the movies find a way to come out. But sometimes I find like these documentaries fly so far under the radar, or, genre films like out of Fantasia, or there's such like niche experimental things that like these film festivals are important. Two of the ones that we talked about tonight were so raw and unfiltered and DIY that it's like they need that kind of help and support. They need a place where they can like showcase themselves and people can actually go and watch it. And like almost everyone that we looked at where we were looking at screening times, most are rush or they've already gone or they were sold out at their premiere. And that's lovely to see. You can also help out Hot Dogs. I mean,
I was gonna say, you can donate on the website.
Yeah.
To Hot Dogs.
And they do see they have an urgent plea right now as well. They're facing a significant operational deficit. They're quickly losing runway and urgently need support from us.
Yes. So if you have the means, you should definitely donate to this organization.
Yep.
Because it's definitely worthwhile.
They are a registered charity too, so if you donate, you will get like a little tax receipt too and stuff. So it does count.
It definitely counts. So if you have the means, definitely do it. If you have the means to go see some films this weekend,
please
definitely should.
Yes, buy a ticket, go support these documentary filmmakers and the festival.
And if you're not able to, you should definitely keep all of these movies on your radar. And to James's point, they might not come out, or they might just hit Netflix, and you'll just
be buried in the.
It'll be buried in the algorithm,
and then they'll come back and be like, "Oh, did they fucking review this documentary?" When it gets added to the Oscar nominations list, and they'll be like, "I don't know, did this documentary come out?" And we'll be like, "Yeah, and we fucking saw it already.
It's true.
We already talked about it, and we told you to keep your eyes out on it. You didn't fucking listen."
It's true. Well, hopefully they listen.
Hopefully
they better listen.
They better
talk about
listen.
Navalny.
Yeah, man. See, fucking crushed it with Navalny.
Still haven't seen it.
Tony still hasn't seen it.
Tony, you're the worst person for this podcast right now. Tony, you've seen it. Shut up, you've seen it. Actually, since you haven't seen it, now you have to donate to Hot Dogs.
Yes,
that's how it works. That's your penance.
That's the penance, and then you go and then watch Navalny,
and then go watch Navalny. Anyway.
Yeah. So thanks for listening on this one, guys. We'll be back with some regular scheduled programming next week, along with, as I said, additional Hot Docs titles that you're definitely going to want to check out.
Yes. And
go see docs.
Yeah.
They're important. They're vital.
Anyway, we've been the Fingerprint Guns podcast. I am James. I am always here with
Tony B.
Yeah, and
Documentary Dave.
Documentary fucking Dave. I love it. We'll be back next week, guys.